live. Uh, Not entirely sure. Let me go see the chat. This is the first time I'm streaming on my phone, so it's quite complicated. Let me, one second, let me lower the tripod just a tiny bit here, just to adjust the scale a tiny little bit. Okay, now this is far too low. Now let's adjust this. Okay, this is good. Okay, this is good here. Let me see the chat. I can't see the chat here on my phone for some reason. How do I see the chat? 1 second. I don't understand on the phone how I can see the chat. Okay, if there's someone in the chat, can you write something? Because so far I don't see any comments. I don't know, maybe there are some comments, but I can't see them here on my phone. This is confusing. Once again, this is the first time I'm actually streaming on my phone, so I can't really see. I don't really understand. Where is the chat? I don't get this. I don't get this. I don't get this. 1 second. How do I see? I don't see the chat here on my phone. I don't see it. Does anyone already message anything? If anyone's here, can you message something? Because I don't see anything. I don't understand how this works on my phone. Message something. Leave something in the chat. I don't see anything. I don't see anything at all. I don't see anything in the chat. No, I mean, this is super convenient, everything, but the chat, I don't see it. Is anyone here? How do I... Okay, I see you now, Alexi. Hello, welcome to my dear friend, to Alexi. Hello. No need to message that, Patrick. No need to message that. Let's stay better in terms of our wording. But yes, welcome, Patrick. Welcome, Alexei. I can see both of you now. I'm hoping you're having a very nice time. So this is what we're doing in this stream. This is a very irregular stream. And last time I streamed was on the New Year's Eve of 2021, going into 22. So you might wonder, what am I doing here? Why am I streaming? It's all very obvious. I'm doing a dissection of my General Grievous animated fan film, which was released exactly, well, almost exactly. I missed a couple of days, but it was released almost exactly a year ago. It was released on the 1st of March, 2022. And so now that a year has passed, I decided, well, I'm the director, and I really want to talk more about it. So now that it's gotten a lot of views, which it has gotten a lot of views, if we go here, it's got, at the current moment, it's got 12,048 views, which is very irregular for me. I usually don't get that many. Now that I can, now that it has a lot of views and people have checked it out and left a lot of comments, why don't we go step by step, second by second, and I, as the director, talk about it in very excruciating, the tiniest detail, and cover everything, like bit by bit, for my audience, so that they understand. And if you have any questions regarding the film, of course, about the film, nothing irrelevant, please. Okay, you can leave something irrelevant, but don't try to, turn the conversation into a drama about something different or something like that. Don't do that. But if it's, but basically, just the rule is, please try talking only about the film, because I want to stay as on topic and as focused as possible during this stream. And so we're gonna be discussing the film, and we're gonna be breaking it down bit by bit, and we're gonna be discussing it in very detail, and I'm gonna be going through it. And if there are any questions, or we can start alternatively. I'm gonna be, scrolling, and I'm gonna be showing stuff, and I'm gonna be discussing stuff and explaining stuff and whatnot, and so forth, and so on and so on. Hello, Joseph Corcoran. Welcome. welcome Joseph Corcoran. Joseph Corcoran is a great fella. He's a great supporter of the channel, so I'm very happy to see you here, Joseph. And if you didn't hear what I said, we're gonna be breaking down my General Grievous animated fan film today. If you haven't watched the fan film, please do that first and then come over here. Because I would recommend that you at least take a look at it first, because I think it turned out pretty well, and I'd be very happy if you checked it out. And obviously without my commentary, because you're not gonna watch the film this way. Don't rely on me showing you the film, because I'm gonna be pausing every single second about it. Okay, you'll think about it. Well, that's great, Joseph. I don't know. Maybe you've already seen it. I mean, it was released in March, so it's been a fair while. So, okay, well, let's start. Okay, here we of course have the obvious disclaimer, and this is what all fan films have to do. It's not even something I wanted to do. It's not like something, oh, a wonderful disclaimer. Obviously, it's not, because it does take time to write the disclaimer, to put it in, but obviously for Disney purposes, for copyright purposes, for copyright reasons, just to be safe. And I'm not saying I'm in danger, because it's all very much by the book, by the rules, but just in case, I always write a disclaimer like this, especially if it's filmed like this with so much other content, which is owned by Lucasfilm. The disclaimer is, of course, done in the Star Wars font. It's very blue on a black background, typical George Lucas, Star Wars, whatever, all that stuff. I'm sorry that I'm making these pauses. It's just I'm still very bothered about how the chat function works on the telephone, because like on the computer, you can always see the chat and it's convenient. But here I have to wait for a notification, and if it's like a bad message or spam message, it's like it takes a long while to delete it. So I'm not a big fan of how this works on the phone here. Okay, so we have the disclaimer, of course. Then we have the message. Enjoy, very typical. And then we have my typical logo. Now, if you don't know, this is my standard logo by this point. It was first created by myself for the movie The Incredible Inspector, which you can purchase on Vimeo. And you can purchase it both in English and in Russian with English subtitles, if you're able to. And it's a great movie. I truly recommend it. You truly will not regret your purchase. But basically that's, yeah, so that's where I first created the intro for. And so this is the Millennium intro, the typical one. It's a very cool intro, I believe myself. Basically, it starts off with this space background, and you've got these leaves forming the name slowly, and then they come forwards, and now they burst into flames, and then they kind of become mist and disappear as the space turns into a wall. Now, obviously, it's not the best special effects, it's not top tier level. Once I upgrade or have a professional VFX team, they'll probably be able to create it in a better way. But for now, this is the typical one, and it's been used in most of my stuff. Incredible Spectre, then in the English dub, then in Repka, which is of course Turnip, which is my film about my Russian comedy film based on the classic Russian fairy tale. And in all of those, I have used this intro. And in my Human Rat film, which was also recently released, I also used this intro. And now finally here for my new one, which is the before the Human Rat for this General Grievous, I used this intro as well. So this is my classic typical intro, and it's gonna remain that way for a long time. Now let's make this a little quieter because it's about to get loud. We have the standard George Lucas intro. I respect fan films that don't want to do it that way, that have their own intros, because Rogue One had its own kind of intro, Solo, A Star Wars Story did, Mandalorians obviously doesn't have an opening crawl, most projects nowadays don't. So if a fan film doesn't want to do the crawl, that's totally their decision. But I want to stay as truthful to George Lucas as possible, as truthful to the original films as possible, and I feel there is no better way to get an audience into that Star Wars universe and to make them feel like they're watching a true Star Wars fan film than starting with an opening crawl. The chat doesn't really have a lot of people writing in it. Remember to write some stuff, people, just so that I can see, because I get very worried here on the phone. I get very worried that the chat isn't working, because this is my first time on the phone, and it's not convenient the way the YouTube has made this, because I can't see the chat unless someone actually comments something. So the more you comment, the more I understand that people are actually leaving something in the chat. It's working? Okay, well, that's good, Alexei. That's good. Okay, so anyways, here we have the typical intro. But what you'll notice, I'll make this a little louder, is that this intro, it has a few elements that you... Thank you, interesting. Well, thank you. This intro has a few elements that you probably normally wouldn't see. It has many more instruments than the usual store scroll. The reason for that is very simple. It's called copyright, because unfortunately I did get spotted for copyright, even though I tried to speed up the music, change the pitch whenever possible, and it wasn't for the intro. Surprisingly, it was not for the intro, it was for something else. But the intro, I specifically made it kind of different to avoid copyright. And it worked for the most part. What you'll hear is that at the very start of it, here, there's a gong. There's a very loud gong. And what you have to understand about the gong, why I added it, is because, first of all, it fit. It's like a big instrument. It silences out the other sound to kind of avoid the copyright. But also, the gong is actually my #1 favorite instrument. Not many people actually consider the gong an instrument at all. But I really like the gong, and I love the gong. Whenever I go to an Asian country, if I'm at like some more or less expensive hotel, like in Cambodia I was, in Thailand, and they always have a gong, because it's like their typical tradition. And I love hitting the gong. It just makes that super satisfying, loud, vibrating noise, and it's just amazing. So I put it in here. And then also, I put a few like stick hitting, following the Star Wars theme pattern here also. So it kind of, once again, it's hidden for the copyright reasons. Once again, the gong here. And what surprises me is a lot of people don't know what to put here in their, opening. They're like, well, what episode shall I call it? We can't call this episode 1, episode 2, whatever. Well, I don't see any reason. It's classical, yes, but just put an animated fanful General Grievous. It's done. And here we have our crawl. Okay, I'm about to start explaining more in detail into what the crawl says, how it relates to the plot, which you should already know if you watched the film, but if you've forgotten, or you didn't fully understand, or just want a reminder, I'll cover it. But I want to tell you this. Me and Alexei, my friend, obviously, great guy, he's in the chat, so hello to you. We were collaborating on this little project. At one point, it didn't get released, unfortunately. Maybe we'll release it one day. It was an episode of Star Wars School, and he actually created an intro for me, which was great, by the way, because he loves editing and stuff. But so when I told him that apparently there was a whole website which was dedicating to creating these scrolls, it was quite a shocking reaction, to be honest, from him, because it was quite surprising. But there is a website like that. I wouldn't be able to make this myself, but now there is a whole website dedicated to it, and there are a few, actually. Some are better than others, some are worse. There is a website... Oh, well done for completing it. Let's give a round of applause for Joseph. But there are a lot of different crawl websites nowadays. Some are better than others. One I really don't like is Kessel Labs. Do not recommend it, because it fools you into thinking you'll create a crawl, and then it says you have to pay, and you have to choose a plan, and you have to pay for like the lowest quality. And I don't think that's, because what they do is they just create the crawl for you automatically, but they want money. I don't feel it's fully fair, and their prices I don't feel are justified. So that whole website I do not approve of. But then there are other websites like this one, which I like much more. The problem with this one, though, is that you can't really download it, so I have to screen record it. And so that's why there are parts that the crawl doesn't look too well, because I used my MacBook to screen record, and it kind of lags a bit, unfortunately. So the crawl, you have to find a good crawl website for yourself. There are some that are just have the wrong kind of text, or you can create it yourself, like me and Alexi did for Star School, but unfortunately once again, that episode hasn't been released. I don't believe we might do it one day, but that was a great crawl too, and here, of course, it was created automatically, as I'm saying. Okay, can everyone in the chat please leave another comment, just so that I can see that you guys are still here? Because I'm just counting people, to see that, because I see people are leaving. I'm wondering who is leaving and why they are leaving. It hasn't been released. No, it has not been released, Alexei. It has not been released. I don't believe it was released. Well, we did it, but then it kind of, I don't know. We'll have to discuss that. But now on to the actual story of the crawl. So I did a very good job. No, good job is a bad word, because I can't praise myself. That's selfish. But I think I did a pretty reasonable job in setting up the time for the story, because you have to understand that this, the Clone Wars, what I don't like about the Clone Wars is that it's a bit confusing in regards to the timeline, because in the very first Clone Wars episode, chronologically, Anakin already has the longer hair and Obi-Wan already has the shorter haircut, so it's probably much later on in the Clone Wars. But in this film, I really wanted to make sure people understand this takes place right 3 weeks after the Battle of Geonosis. This is very fresh. This is right off the bat. This is almost immediately after the Attack of the Clones. This is just 3 weeks have passed, so this is very, very, very soon. And I even make a point that, much to the dismay of the Jedi, the Clone Wars have carried on. This is typical stuff. To protect the Republic, the Jedi lead enormous armies of clone troopers into battles. Of course, tying it with Attack of the Clones again. This is very, very, very relatively briefly after Attack of the Clones, all this stuff. And now we get to the juicy, part of this delicious steak, the meaty part. Those who like the 2003 Clone Wars, the Tartakovsky series, the 2D series with crazy overpowered Mace Windu and Yoda, who destroy thousands of ships by winking and blinking a few times, those who like that show, 2003, or even are familiar with, know the planet Hypori very well. Hypori is a planet that only appeared in that show, and that is where General Grievous first appeared in. In the episode where General Grievous confronts Ki-Adi-Mundi, Aayla Secura, Shakti, all the Jedi, where he first appears in the 2003 Clone Wars, that is the planet Hypori. And the whole first several scenes of this film are an homage to that episode. It takes place on that planet, on Hypori, and it's very, very similar. It's meant to be not a ripoff, but a very, very clear homage, kind of combining what they had then with what is. Yeah, I agree. Genndy Tartakovsky did a great job. My problem with it is that the Jedi are crazily overpowered, but I think, despite that, it's pretty good. So Hypori is attacked. There's a war. This is definitely this is me showing my own version of the story from the 2003 Clone Wars. And a large squad of Jedi has been dispatched. Now, this is also very similar, once again, not a ripoff, but an homage to the 2003 Genndy Tartakovsky series. And the reason that I created new Jedi for this, so they're led by Ara Eng Udon instead of Ki-Adi-Mundi, is because, spoiler, but you should know this if you watch the film, is later on in the film, General Grievous first appears. General Grievous first appears, and he kills all of the Jedi here. So in the 2003, they of course survive. They're just heavily injured. But here, just to show his brutality, to show how merciless he is, I specifically wanted all the Jedi to die. And we know Ki-Adi-Mundi survived, we know Shakti survives, we know Aayla Secura survives, and so I can't kill them off. So instead, what I decided is I'm gonna add my own Jedi here. And these are brand new Jedi, completely created by me. And here, Ara Eng Udon is their leader. Now about the name Ara Eng Udon. Ara is like the parrots. There's Ara, papugai, Ara, the parrots. That's the inspiration for the first part. Ing, I don't know. I don't remember. I'll be lying to you if I remember how I came up with that. But just Ara Ing, probably in like in, and then I just added it. And udon is of course the name of the famous Chinese noodles. You know, lapsha udon, the noodles udon. So that's I put those three together, and boom, a name. You know, George Lucas. That's probably how he comes up with them too. I mean, don't blame me. So they have been dispatched to resolve the issue. If there are any questions, once again, keep commenting them. I have not gotten a single question about the film yet, which surprises me, considering we have at least 3 people right now. And they know not what awaits them on the surface, a very sinister foreshadowing, hinting to us that General Grievous is about to come and kill all of them, which does happen, unfortunately. Once again, spoiler alert. So that's the ominous threat. You know, the crawl often ends with an ominous threat, and kind of like setting the film up. So then, that's the end of the crawl, and now, just scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up. Okay, now the film begins, and excuse me, full screen. We have the opening shows this separatist ship entering the frame. Once again, honoring how all the Star Wars films begin. They always begin with a ship entering the frame. This one, very similar to Revenge of the Sith in a way, but in general, all the Star Wars films start off with the ship kind of entering into the frame. So here it starts off, here it enters the frame. Now, in terms of the animation, many people have asked me this. Many people in the comments complain, you can't call this a real animation because there's no actual, it's just images or whatever. But you have to actually have a live action element and photo it shot by shot. Well, while this shot in particular is just... This takes place before the Clone Wars show, for sure. Yeah. This takes before the Clone Wars show. Because in the Clone Wars show, we have already Obi-Wan with his shorter hair. You know, it's all very early on. It's all pretty much later on hinted at. Anakin immediately gets Ahsoka. Here later on, if we scroll a bit further on, Obi-Wan has his mullet still. His mullet. Whenever I think of this, I think of a guy named George nowadays. And a teacher. Whenever I hear the word mullet. Normal people won't realize what I'm talking about. But Obi-Wan has his mullet in the film, so this is before Clone Wars, definitely. So we have this separatist ship entering frame. A lot of people say you can't call this animation if it's not, you know, if you're not photographing anything. But a lot of the stuff in here is actually photographed and not just placed. The pancake teacher. The pancake teacher. That teacher really was obsessed with George's mullet. And so this separatist ship enters frame, and this one is not photographed. This is just me taking an image and superimposing it for better animation, stuff like that. But anyways, here, this ship, you will hear if you listen closely, there's this very heavy kind of roaring engine. Now, this engine is taken directly out of Revenge of the Sith. Because in Revenge of the Sith, the Invisible Hand, there's like 10 seconds where there's just a space battle. So I took that moment where you can very clearly hear this engine of the Separatist ship. Not the same one, obviously, but the same model. So I took that, and that's where the sound for this one comes from. Then we have two, what is this? I don't know the name of these ships. Forgive me. I'm not a big ship fan, but these ships fly out behind it. Big mistake I made is in the size. They're supposed to be much smaller compared to this, but otherwise you just wouldn't see them, and I'd have to animate a lot more, so... Yeah, unfortunately, they're a little larger. But on the other hand, maybe it's just perspective, because maybe they're much closer to the camera. Maybe they're like here. So I'm not saying it's a complete mistake on my behalf. But once again, also very similar to Revenge of the Sith, an homage where in Revenge of the Sith, it starts off with like the ship flying in, and Obi-Wan and Anakin fly out from behind and on like that. There it's a Republic ship, though. Here it's a Separatist one. And obviously the angle is completely different, but definitely some inspiration here. So they fly in. Here's a close-up. The cropping is not the best, but the wings were so Clone star. Well, they are clone starfighters. I can't just name the model. I can't say like THX1138 or something. I don't know what the model is called. But the cropping is very poorly done. This is my biggest mistake. But I couldn't have done it otherwise. The wings are too way too narrow to properly cut them about. But yes, so this is the front view now. The music that you can hear playing in this scene is actually it's one of my favorite pieces. It's called Another Happy Landing, and it's from Revenge of the Sith. And it's when they're crashing on Coruscant, and then Obi-Wan says when they land, well, another happy landing. And so this is where the music comes from. And it was also used in The Phantom Menace when Anakin blows up the Trade Federation ship accidentally on accident. The sound effects for these ships are very accurate because there's a deleted Clone Wars scene in Season 2, the Zillo Beast episode, where they're about no. It's in the Mandalore episode when they want to invade Mandalore, the Republic, because Palpatine is manipulating them, and Satine is trying to prove that Mandalore should stay neutral. And in that episode, the ships, there's a deleted scene with just no music, and you can actually hear very well those types of ships flying. It's like a whole 15 seconds or something of just those ships and other ships flying. So I was like, bingo. And I took that ship sound, I was like, okay, this is very clear, this is good stuff, and I added it in. So this is the most accurate we can get, obviously. Matthew Wood, David Acord, gotta give huge props for them because they were the sound designers. And of course, Ben Burtt for the movies. But this particular sound from the Clone Wars, not from the movies, from a deleted scene with no music. Here we have the Separatist ships firing, pretty straightforward, just animating the lasers. The firing is just standard Separatist fire sound effects, from what I recall. Here we have a lot of ships flying and blowing up, and there are vulture droids behind them, flying behind them, and shooting at them, so they're destroying them. It's a whole dogfight. These vulture droids, even though, because there's so much going on, you can't really separate the sounds, but the vulture droids have their own sounds. Their sounds I took from The Phantom Menace, and I think a little from the Clone Wars. But in The Phantom Menace, there were a lot of scenes, like when they first land on Naboo, stuff like that, where the vulture droids are actually flying, and you could hear their sound very well. It's kind of like this razory sound, and so I took the vulture droid sound from there. And I really like the vulture droids, by the way. I love their design, and I love how they have personalities too. Like, and they are like Transformers a bit. They can stand on their legs, but then they can also use them as wings. And yeah, let me scroll back. The vulture droid explodes because it's shot. And here we have this shot is completely paper. So this is not something that I just did in like an app or something. This I photographed piece by piece. All of these are printed out completely out of paper. Every shot is photographed for real. A lot of ships, Separatist cruisers. I like this shot quite a bit. This shot is, I think it was actually this. Is it this one? No, it's not this one. Okay. So a lot of them flying. Then there's. Well, because I already did all of these digital fan films in the past, like the Count Dooku one, so I wanted to go with a more traditional style. Not to mention, I'll get later on to why I did a lot of paper. I'll get to it a little later on. But one second, because Joseph messaged something too, but this stupid option here on the phone doesn't allow me to see all of them, so I can't see what Joseph just commented. What did he? Well, I'll explain why I did it on paper a bit later on if we get to that point today. But there are some reasons. But the shots that looked bad on paper, then I did them digitally. So then there's once again a Separatist cruiser. Once again that sound effect. Joseph, please comment copy and paste what you commented. Copy what you commented and paste it again into the chat, because I can't, your message has disappeared and I can't see it now because the mobile is very stupid. I can't see the whole chat. Joseph, I can't see your comment. If you want me to answer or you want me to address it, please comment again, Joseph. Because I was answering Alexei's and then suddenly you commented, and so I'm like, 1 second, what is this? Oh, this is just different filters, okay. Oh, I can see the chat now. I'm so stupid. I can see the chat here. Oh, so that's what you use. Interesting. Yeah. But there is a reason for me making it digital, Alexei. Okay, I can see the chat here. I didn't realize this before. Thank goodness I can. Okay, this is one of those failed shots. This is one of those failed shots. Why remember I told you in the very beginning that the very, very first shot with the Separatist cruiser and the ships fly out from behind it, that was digital? Well, because I did it on paper first, but I printed all the objects looked way too similar in size, so there's this very quick shot. I need to pause. I specifically made it very quick to hide how bad it is, but here, this is paper. This was the original version of that scene. No, not this. This was the original version of that scene. And look how gigantic the fighters are here and how small this thing is behind them. Because I wanted to do a very good like blur effect, start from this one, blur it, and then focus on these ones. But the sizes did not match. These fighters were far too large. So I realized, and this looks good, relatively good, but before it was completely awful. So I specifically made it very quick and just added one little part. But a lot of these paper ones didn't match in size because there's only I can only print them to be so large or so small, and I did my best to adjust the sizes. And you can't really reprint them because I already wasted so much gloss paper. So, I use what I can. But this shot I like when they fly away at a vulture droid, once again. And then it goes back, more vulture droids, a Republic ship being pursued by vulture droids. Once again, the sound effects, this ship sound effect, all from the movies, from the Phantom Menace, stuff like that. And finally here we have Attack of the Clones. Well, it is an Attack of the Clones. It's a clone. It's a clone. We have I couldn't get the precise cockpit online. There's no really reference for it. So I just use a typical X-Wing cockpit. It's similar enough. I put a clone. Once again, phase 1. This shows this is very early in the Clone Wars. This is not phase 2. At this point, this is very early on. And he's being pursued by vulture droids. So these shots I like. If you look closely, they're intertwined. Here. Look, once again, this is the fighters pursuing this particular ship, and then we cut to inside of the ship, and this is the clone that was in there the whole time. And if you listen very closely too, while this clone is talking, I actually use the clone theme. Da 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 da. I use the clone theme, the very iconic one from the Clone Wars, when he's talking, just moments before he gets blown up. I did the voice for the clone. It was me, yes, with a kind of heavy modulation effect. I know it's a controversial opinion, but most of the time I do prefer the movie voices. So I know many people in this chat don't, and that's fair enough. That's completely fine. I respect all of your guys' opinions about that. I'm not the kind of guy to say, why are you preferring a different actor? Unless it's a joke. But I don't get angry about that, unlike others sometimes. But I'm very respectful about that, and I know some people prefer the Clone Wars actors. I, of course, do prefer the movie, so I did a Tamora Morrison impression. Why is that emoji? I wasn't. By the way, I wasn't referring to you. I was referring to somebody. I wasn't referring to anyone about being angry. I was referring, but there are fans who get pretty angry. You're kidding. Don't worry. Okay, well that's good. That's good, Alexei. But I do prefer Tamora Morrison. He's just my personal clone pick. So I kind of did a gruff kind of voice for him. There are 3 vulture droids on my tail. I cannot maneuver. Here, let's take a listen together. And then he gets blown up. That's quite the irony. Quite an unfortunate scene, but very similar to some Clone Wars ones, like when in the second battle of Geonosis, that one clone, I still remember that scene, was like, "Good thing those bugs can aim," about the Geonosians, and then he gets blown up by the Geonosians. Dramatic irony. And once again, yeah, I did a Tim Morrison impression, kind of gruff, and I added kind of a helmet effect to it to represent the clones. And the Vulture droids blow him up, and then I covered the whole explosion to kind of mask the cut here, and then it cuts to him actually exploding once again. And you can see the pieces flying away. I specifically had the pieces kind of explode and so on. Then we cut to a... Morrison is great. I love Morrison. I mean, the Book of Boba Fett, I know you probably haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett because you don't have Disney Plus, do you, Joseph? But I think he was a pretty great star in that. And he was great in Aquaman. He was fantastic in Aquaman. I loved his role in Aquaman. That's actually one of my favorite roles of his. I mean, Morrison is great in whatever he appears in. He definitely should start getting more roles nowadays. One big thing I'm upset about in regards to Morrison is that he did not get to... when he did the voice for Moana, for the chief, her dad, they did not let him sing. And I was like, what is this? Because Morrison is a great singer. If you actually look at the behind the scenes of Mando Season 2, with Robert Rodriguez, he's actually playing the guitar and singing, and he has a great singing voice. I don't know why they had someone else sing for him in Moana. But here we have a hologram with the fighters. It's a red hologram, because most of the table holograms, well, not all of them, not in Return of the Jedi, for instance, but a lot of the table holograms are red, like in Attack of the Clones during the Separatist meeting on Geonosis. They're overlooking the battle, and it's red. So I specifically wanted to make this one red. Now wait just 2 minutes. I'm going to take a drink of water, because my throat is getting pretty sore from all the talking, unfortunately. And I also need... and I'm also gonna grab a little bit of food. So you guys just wait, and Alexei, please moderate the chat, just in case. Thank you. Okay, that's it. That's not quite it. I'm gonna grab some food too, but for now we're gonna continue. I do want to say that I unfortunately spilled a little bit of water, so my grandma's gonna be pretty angry when she sees that tomorrow. Oh no, oh dear. Well, what can we do? Okay, now we get onto the bridge of the ship. This is once again all paper, all completely cut out. You can even see like the white lines here because this is cut out. This is me trimming the scissors, and there's a second layer. Oh, no, don't worry. Well, thank you for your concern, Joseph, but I'm pretty careful with that stuff. I know the danger. I know the risks. Don't jinx it, please. But anyways, this is old paper. Now I'm gonna talk about these three characters. This right here is Ara Ing Udon, who my goodness, I just hit the tripod a bit. This is Ara Ing Udon, who was already talked about in the crawl. He's the leader, he's the master. What I did with him is I printed out Makis Sha'alas. Don't ask me how I know that name off by heart, I just do. Makis Sha'alas, I printed him out from the internet. I took Makis Sha'alas, and then I colored, his face is more yellow. Let me actually look him up just a second. Makis Sha'alas. Maybe this? Yes, yes, here we go. This is Makis Shala. See this? But this guy is far more brown. This guy is very, very brown. So what I did is I printed this guy out, and then what is this? Oh my goodness, we're in an infinite loop. No, we need to go away from here. I printed this guy out. Let me close this tab. I printed this guy out, and I recolored him. I took a marker and I literally painted his face red to make it. So this is now not Makis Shalas. This is now Ara Ing Udon. Then this guy, this is the apprentice, this is the student, this is the Padawan. His name is Sung Am. Sung Am. I would love to tell you how I came up with the name, but I do not remember anymore. And this guy is Neznik Raj. He's the other master, also very old, very wise, stuff like that. Let me just look how much battery I have, just in case. That's not good. 23 is not good. Okay, so this guy is called Neznik Raj. He's also like an old master of sorts. And what I did with him is I took Bizzer Fortuna from Rogue One. Let me look him up here. Bizzer Fortuna. Yeah, here he is, Bizzer Fortuna. Here, this guy. So I took Bizzer Fortuna, and I colored him blue. Pretty straightforward. And I cut off his stick, and I colored in the ropes to look more like Jedi ropes and stuff like that. So this is pretty much a blue-colored Bizzer Fortuna. And then this guy, this is Sung Am, once again the Padawan. For him, I did a pretty simple thing. I took young Obi-Wan Kenobi with his Padawan badge from the Phantom Menace. And then I took the character Kong Skull Island Thomas Mann character. I don't remember. Yeah, Silco. So I took Silco from Kong Skull Island, and I stuck his face onto Obi-Wan Kenobi. No joke, that's what I did, yes. Call me crazy, but just felt that fit for the character. So yes, so those are the free Jedi Masters here. Thank you. So those are the free Jedi Masters here. And there was supposed to be a fourth Jedi Master. And let me look him in the script. He was called, here. Nukel Os. Neckel Os. But Neckel Os never made it to the screen. Why? Because I forgot he existed. Moment of silence for Neckel Aus. So there's the three of them, but I was already having a tough time with these three and animating all of them, the first one. You can see, once again, I have this whole thing moving, and I also have the Separatist cruisers behind, so a lot of detail here. And now let's listen to a bit of voice acting for a bit. This Padawan, Sung Am, you can hear this youthful voice. He is voiced by Ryan Pratt. Now, Ryan Pratt did the voice of Asherad Head for Audial Architect, for Corbinian Galloway. And Corbinian Galloway was doing these comic dubs of Outlander. And in them, there was this young Jedi, this young Tusken Padawan, who is a very important part of the story, called Asherad Head. And he has this very youthful, this very innocent-sounding voice. And I really needed the same. So I already collaborated with Ryan Pratt. He did Chameleon for Spider-Man issue 1. So I messaged Ryan Pratt. I say, Ryan, do you want to voice another Padawan? He says, sure. Send lines, he sends it over. And by the way, this looks very good. Can I just say, I don't usually say this, but this was by complete accident. This wasn't me. I'm not praising myself. I'm praising God and fortune, because there is no way I don't know how this happened. Literally, it just fits perfectly as if this is his head, but this is Obi-Wan's body. Literally, this is all Obi-Wan's body, and I just accidentally, randomly placed the head on there, And it just fit like that. I don't know how to explain it. It was just luck or whatever. Once again, a lot of detail here, blowing up, and I blurred it to because I don't want to distract from this guy. This guy is what's important. I know obviously there are limitations with the style of animation I chose, and I didn't want to do the mouth. So when I only have this screenshot with him standing with his mouth wide open, it does look a little silly and cartoony and cringy. But what can I do? Okay, now we have a good look at this guy. Once again, this is the Jedi Maki Shalas, recolored into red. And what's interesting, I'll bring this up a lot as we go through the movie, but this stuff, to make all the fabric more realistic, this is actually real fabric. And Alexei asked earlier on, why did I choose to do it on paper? Well, that's why, because I wanted to actually, I glued a piece of fabric on here to actually make it look like real fabric. So that's why I actually chose that. And he's voiced excellently by Wyatt Henry. Wyatt Henry, very great voice actor, extremely underrated, extremely underappreciated. But he's amazing. He's fantastic. If Wyatt was listening to us right now, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. And but I really mean it. I mean, he's great. He has such a variety in terms of the voice. He delivers the lines so well. He's so humble. He's so sweet. He's so generous. He's so kind, and he's very productive. You know, you send him the lines, next thing you know, you've got the lines, and you've got more than you asked for. So Wyatt is great, but he always talks about how his voice is super high, he can't really make low-pitched voices. But then you get this character, and I told him do a low-pitched voice, and tell me this is not a good low-pitched voice. Here, listen. I think it's great. Well, let's take another listen. And you can hear there's this very faint kind of ambience of things blowing up. That's actually from a funny scene once again in Genndy Tartakovsky's 2003 Clone Wars. There's this funny scene where Palpatine is sitting in his chair and drinking tea, and there's a whole battle going on outside the window, and it's very quiet, and it's meant to be comedic. Well, I'm okay.
We leave now. There will be no chance in saving its inhabitants.
Okay, hopefully that's fair enough. But yes, but anyways, but there's the scene where Palpatine is drinking the tea, and then there's a whole battle in the background. That's where I took the ambience for like things exploding from. It was it has that booming kind of effect to it, makes it feel like it's outside the window.
There is no chance at all anymore. But if we do not flee, we will die along with those on the surface.
I'm sorry, just I've got a painful piece of piece. I've got a painful piece of skin on my fingernails, so I got distracted for a bit, but I took it off now. But yes, now we cut back here, and if you listen very closely, you can hear the ambience of the hologram as well. The hologram is a pretty straightforward sound. I have many variations of it saved, but if you just type into Google holo projector ambience, you'll find the right one.
I'm afraid that Padawan is right. There are 78,000 separatist cruisers attacking us.
Now, this is Jacob McKean, Dr. Pepper King, Jacob Michael Keane. He's a great voice actor, too. Unfortunately, he does take a long time to deliver the voice lines. I will not lie here. You know, as much as I love Jacob, if you're listening to this, you do take a little while. I've got to be honest with that, just in case. But the voice lines are definitely pitch perfect. You know, when he delivers them, they're always of excellent quality. And he can do a wide range as well. He can do a great Gilbert Gottfried. He can do a great Tony J, a pretty good, and his Ernie Sabella Pumbaa and Nathan Lane Timon are just the most spot on I've ever heard. He is very good. Yes, I actually did an interview with him back in February of 2021. He's a great guy, and he voiced Dr. Octopus for me, and that remains my favorite role of his. maybe it's biased, but just so he does this guy here, and I just told him, do a hoarse voice. I sent him images of how the character would look. I said, just do a hoarse voice. What do you think fits this character? I told him he's an ancient master, and do something, and that's what he did. He did this voice right here.
Must evacuate immediately.
All right, Commander Brown.
And the music in this scene is from The Phantom Menace, from when, because this is a dire moment and a stressful situation, they're trying to figure out what to do, they're trying to decide what, how to fix the problem, what is happening, so on and so forth. The music I chose for this is from the scene where Queen Amidala is talking to, like, her royal advisors when, before the Trade Federation invades in The Phantom Menace, and Theo Bibble is like, negotiations! We've lost all communications! And where are the Chancellor's ambassadors? That whole scene, that's where the music comes from. Because that's also a stressful, tense situation where they're trying to figure out how to react to this possible invasion that may be coming up. And that's the same thing here. They're trying to figure out what to do here. They need to evacuate because they're outnumbered. This is a dire situation. Or they stay and they fight until the end and they save this planet against all odds. Well, they're discussing this, so that's the music I used. It's a similar scene.
Attacking us. We must evacuate immediately.
All right, Commander Brown. Start up the hyperdrive generator. We are exiting the system immediately.
Yes, sir. As you wish, sir.
This is Commander Brown. He is not a movie character. He's just a clone I invented. And I want people in the chat to say why he's called Commander Brown, why I chose that name for him. Well, it's pretty obvious. Well, he has brown plating, I added the brown plating here, It's very much symbolism for the name. But that's, once again, Commander Gree has green plating, and just remove one letter, and that's Commander Gree. So it's not like George Lucas and Dave Filoni and whatever didn't do this too. Or I don't know, what's his name? Commander, well, there are a lot of those, right? A lot of those. I know for a fact. Commander Bakara. Now that I think of it, I can't really come up with another. But this is enough. So Brown, Commander Brown here, standing, and once again, I'm doing a Tamora Morrison impression, and he says,
Yes, sir. As you wish, sir.
of course, the inspiration for that, for how the voice sounds, for how the line is delivered, is from Attack of the Clones, because in Attack of the Clones, and even in Revenge of the Sith, he says that all the time. That's a very signature clone quote, even in the Clone Wars. In Attack of the Clones, he says,
We're out of rockets, sir. I have 5 special commando units awaiting your orders, sir. Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
what else? Or even when he says to Palpatine,
There's no sign of his body, sir. Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
so very signature quote, and that's where my inspiration is from. Here we have the back of the ship. It looks very pixely. I am aware of that. I tried to kind of color it in because I printed it out so that it wouldn't be as much. But the thing is that we don't actually have any kind of good photos of the back of a Republic Venator. Well, at least I didn't find them at the time. Most of the time it's from an angle like this, 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 but never like this. And I needed a straight up shot like that. So I found some concept art or some art or something, and so I printed it out and kind of recolored it. And they're activating their engines here, you can see. So I cut a few holes here, and then I took a stock blue flame in front of a green screen, like, a blue kettle flame, and I added 4 of them in to represent the engines. And if you look at Bad Batch Season 1, I think they did a pretty similar thing with, like, the engines, right, when they're activating it, and even right now with Bad Batch Season 2. And this sound effect is also very, very much authentic. It's actually, maybe this is the jump. This is not the jump. No. This is the activation of the engines. Okay, I won't lie here, just in case I forgot what sound effect I used. Okay, I'm gonna step away once again to grab a little food because, once again, talking has made me hungry and it has made me thirsty. So I'm gonna step away. Please moderate the chat if there are any moderators, and we might have to end soon, actually, because because there's 6%. So I think maybe I'll continue later on today, or maybe we'll continue another day. But unfortunately, not the percentage ran out very, very quickly, and my charger is not long enough. Maybe it is long enough, but no, I doubt that it's long enough. I don't think it will be long enough to last it. Okay, I'm gonna grab some food because it's not over yet, and on my way, I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna be doing. Got a little not cupcake, just a little mini cake here as a dessert. And okay, now I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. Is there any way to plug the charger in here? I gotta think now because the percentage is getting less and less. And this is a tough. I don't know how to screen share on the computer. I don't see such an option. You have to have like a separate app, I did not see that comment. No, I did not see Lucamus Prime's comment on that review. No, I don't know. Or maybe I did. I don't believe I did. Unfortunately, but I'll take a look at it later. Joseph. Okay, one second, Alexis, and everyone. But I mean, at this point, if Joseph has left, then it looks like there are two people. Unless we have people, maybe some people just don't want to comment but are watching. If you're one of those, don't be shy, say hi, and ask a question. But let me figure out. Okay, it's 1%, so I'll probably be ending the stream here, unfortunately, for now. And then I'm gonna think about it, and then maybe we'll continue, or maybe we'll continue another day. But it was a blast, guys, and for now, I'm gonna end it, but do not worry, we will continue going for the film. Thank you, yes. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.